up here, figuring out where the battleground for game number 4 is going to be. In fact, is that predictable Towers of Doom selection that we are getting to here. But it's going to be on the other side. HeroesHearth Esports is the one taking us to it. No Holostorm's kind of trickery here. Maybe some Junkrat trickery, but not some Holostorm's trickery.
Yeah, Junkrat does really well on here. You get substantial amount of poke, you pair him with something else there, and we might even see another Hanzo Junkrat because it's two heroes that they play well together. And obviously, Arthon likes to have a lot of fun on that hero. Hanzo right back here in the meta after taking a little bit of a week off, kinda, in week 5, and then everybody's like, look, he's still good. SC, thank you over in Korea for showing us that he's still a very viable hero. I think he might have won a little something with that hero.
Yeah, maybe. I guess only 2-time Eastern Clash champion, not a big deal. Pretty much only main Hanzo the entirety of the Eastern Clash. No, SC's Hanzo made me believe in Hanzo because that guy hits, I think, it feels like 80% of scattering arrows. When I say 80%, I'm not saying his scattering arrows thrown out. I'm saying every time it ricochets off a wall, 80% of the arrows hit a target. Like, it put the damage output into somebody. They never ends up missing. And it's not that common, you know, spray and pray all over the place. It's just
that's how I play.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Spray and pray.
Yeah, just make it fling everywhere.
Like, I hope this hits.
I look at it and it's just like it's like I'm playing like a game of pinball. You know, I try and figure out how many walls I can make it bounce off. I'm not worried about the opponents. I'm just look how neat this is.
It is like you just the sounds and everything. You know, Chris tweeted out his own highlight. I think it was on Battlefield of Eternity. It just said goodbye, brother, as he hit a long distance and banked it back on a Genji. I was like, ooh, that was good. That was one of those nasty plays. You just kind of like, that feels good. It felt so good. He tweeted out his own highlight. That's when you're feeling good about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Good threshold there to kind of gauge that off of. Is there anything else we expect knowing that it's going to be Towers of Doom? Trying to look here when it comes to some of the heroes being selected. We talked about maybe opportunities of fall stats. Still don't feel like it's going to be jumping out too much here. Medivh, very unlikely to make it through this draft as well.
You know, now that the Abathur's kind of been let out of the box, maybe we'll see it. Towers of Doom has kind of been one of those traditional ones. We still haven't had our Tracer game yet, which is another map. But it seems like Tracer may be nearing her end with the upcoming changes coming up. And then we've seen a lot of counter drafts towards that. We've seen a lot of high priority on Tracer. And then a lot of teams trying to figure out how to draft against that. But those are, I think, if we're looking outside of the box, maybe some things to consider.
Another thing, too, for Gale Force there, maybe when looking at that last draft, that maybe they would want to take back as their priority onto the support, finding it all the way down to that Lucio as that last pickup. I wouldn't say it was, you know, maybe the reason you're struggling, but definitely had a hard time dealing with that last right's Malthael. We talked about the trade-off there. Is you never want to use it for one person, but you feel like you have to, especially when Garrosh literally didn't have armor that game due to multiple targets being able to kind of remove that.
You know, that's actually a really good point because I think if we do look at this draft, because of the priority for Hanzo for Crowan, if you do want to go into it, because they went Garrosh Blaze with their first 2 picks, obviously they'll have first and then their second, third pick will come after the 2 picks from HeroesHearth. If you are going to go down that Garrosh route, at least you can, if Hanzo gets picked up on the first 2 picks, that might prevent you from wanting to go down that route again.
The only kind of rare exception to a lot of the rules that we saw, especially the drafting patterns displayed at the Eastern Clash, I feel like a lot of it revolved around having double invuln, and because the Uther is so low priority and Tyrael is questionable priority in the scene, I feel like it kind of changes how these drafts should be approached, but I'm always surprised at how close they are minus those kind of invulnerability targets, because they really do change the way that game has to be played out. Because, I mean, even think about the last one. If the Tyrael or even Uther had managed to make it through, or selected more so, Garrosh is going to probably be not nearly as highly of a threat. But the Malfurion, I would like, if this is a Garrosh in this rotation for HeroesHearth, I would like to see them go with something more of like a, either that Tyrael or the Uther. And I know I'm asking too much. It's probably going to be a Stukov. But then it hits one of those moments where it's like, if you don't have the invuln, then your damage has got to be too selective. And I don't know how long I'm going to keep praising this, but until probably it changes here, J-How.
We'll see. They're spending quite a bit of time thinking about their first 2 picks. Spending every ounce of time. And they do prioritize the Hanzo. Instead of worrying if the Garrosh will make it through, they just pick it up themselves.
I do like that it is shift there. So now when I'm Gale Force Esports, I have a lot of concern towards making sure I can you know, make sure I rid of any keeping this Hanzo alive characters. So that is going to be, I would like to see priority like a Tracer Malfurion here, or not Tracer Malfurion, Tracer Malfurion Tyrael. So a Tyrael Tracer rotation for them would be huge. Does well with dealing with the Garrosh, one of the better kind of skill matchups with the Garrosh 1v1 in the front line. You have, you know, pressure onto Hanzo in the back line. Synergy between the Tracer Tyrael and Malfurion is just ridiculous in how much pressure it puts out. I know it's picking a Tracer into a Garrosh, but I think it's going to be far more profitable than that of like a Genji, for instance.
There's a lot, I think, that HeroesHearth can get creative with on their drafts to see whatever Gale Force does bring out. And if they do go into the Tyrael and maybe any other pick here, I don't think it shows a lot for Gale Force. And then HeroesHearth, they go with the Tracer Dread, but you're not getting the Tyrael in this rotation.
Then is it going to be worth the ban? I mean, I say that, and it's like not even like it's inevitable that HeroesHearth picks it up. Again, I'm saying these things with the, keep in mind, these rules are very different considering the Uther. I'm just trying to learn where is the shift in the paradigm for North America when it comes to those type of things, because it seems to be different, but I can't totally figure out why. And a lot of it has to hinge on the double invuln, because that's why I feel like Western and Eastern clashes were so separate. When I conclude, I will let you guys know at home, but it's taken a hot minute to figure it out. I've spent, it feels like since the beginning of part 2 to try and understand this.
The Uther now has to be really considered, right? I mean, in the earlier part, that was BBJ's most played hero, sometimes to a fault. You know, we did see earlier, however, that there was a counter with Lunara when we looked at Europe, which has kind of always been that natural counter, especially once you get Splintered Spear at level 7. So we'll see if that makes it in here.
I know this is crazy, man. I'm just going to say it. Ban Uther. Like, then Hanzo is going to die this game. You just banned out the Tyrael, which we talked about how much you would want that on the other side, but I feel like HeroesHearth would have wanted that for themselves. I know Garrosh and Tyrael, who's going to be the side laner that's going to be such a problem. It is going to be problematic, but also keeping your backliner alive, generally speaking, is a pretty good deal, especially with the Tracer poke and pressure. Stukov can't do that. Is Garrosh enough? This is one of those things that I love about when we look at international, when we look at regional, like what is able to be successful when and where and kind of how, versus like why is it not in a different tournament, in a different meta.
The Malthel Hover is here, but I feel that HeroesHearth would probably gladly go down the Dahaka route. It's something we saw towards the end that McIntyre was really adapting to this hero.
Yeah.
And he was making some sick plays, like sick tongue grabs, timing on his Brush Stalker. It was on point, and it was a big turnaround for their team towards the later part of Phase 1. So that's here. It's Towers of Doom.
HeroesHearth, I believe, yeah, we have gotten the chances of them picking up the Stukov in this rotation. I was trying to figure out, I was like, you know, is there any chance? But with the Medivh banned out, that's the only other time we saw them go with kind of different thought process. Stukov what?
You know, there's an outside shot. I wouldn't be surprised if they go down the Tracer route or the Tassadar route.
You know, and with that in mind, I feel a lot better about the, you know, kind of idea moving into that, but then it changes. I feel like you have to flex that towards your last pick, because it is punishable with the composition we see with leaving 2 picks back. There's the Stukov, it's still the Dahaka. So flexing the last pick to be a Tassadar if they want. I like the Tassadar a lot more in that type of situation if you are going to commit to the Stukov. I don't like Tassadar and Dahaka on the same team, honestly. More often than not, it feels like you're never getting enough damage out of your frontliner, but not enough consistency CC, but your secondary support doesn't have enough individual damage to really prep it, and if there's not synergy there, which there isn't too much between the two, it usually kind of falls off. But
outside shot of maybe a Tychus?
Yeah.
Super standard, Neo Steel Coden to deal with Pulse Bomb, Odin, great Shrine control, great frontline control. Maybe, unless it gets picked up by Gale Force.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable that Gale Force would want to pick it up for themselves in this position. I don't think it's a must by any means. They still need their heavy frontliner. With the Tyrael banned out, Garrosh on the other side. Who can deal with that effectively? It is Towers of Doom. You might see a Diablo. It's not necessarily the best matchup in the world. Actually, I want to hate the Diablo. Genji, Jojo.
With that, though, that brings up an interesting thing, because Genji has generally been Biggie's hero.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the dynamic, but so is Tracer. So we might see Michael Udall flex over to the Genji, who to this date does not have Genji games under his belt in the season. Biggie was the only one playing Genji, but he was also the only one playing Tracer. So obviously somebody's been practicing to prepare.
I'm a little torn on the Johanna. The argument for it is the Stukov Garrosh threshold on the threat on the front is too much for most frontliners to keep themselves alive. But when you know you're going to be picking a Genji Tracer as your backliner in that same rotation, picking a frontliner who can't enable that as well, Blessed Shield's a pretty meh initiation tool to make up for that. And I hate to break it to you guys, we are not going to find ourselves a falling sword.
Double support.
Okay, so now this makes a little bit more sense with some of the adjustments in the draft. I did not think we would get a double support under this circumstance.
In the one game that Arthlon did play Uther,
That JoJo is going to gain so much value now. Oh, that was so clutch. Having a Johanna to get solo clear on the off lanes, the only thing you're afraid of when you see a double support is how strong is their tri-lane, can we stop it? Oh, we have Tracer, we have Genji, we have too much kill potential, we'll never be able to deal with that. Who could ever soak the mid lane and help us? Johanna can do it pretty easy. That was very well done.
so I'm going to try and say why I think I'm not a big fan of this true double support style.
Hit me with it.
But this will most likely be a Holy Shock Uther. This will most likely be a Divine Storm Uther. And if you're sitting there and you've got a Garrosh and you get stunned, and he'll probably go the cooldown reduction on his stun at level 1, Will Arthlon on Uther, you stun, you get Divine Storm, you get the Lurking Arm, you get the Taunt, you get the Silence. That's not cleansable. Nature's Cure does not take care of silences. So if you can get one hero, one kill, what's the deal?
We'll find out if they can make that happen here with the double support composition. HeroesHearth Esports. Double support, it's come, it's gone. It's been brought back to life in like almost a ghost form Leoric version of like it kind of just shows up here and there. And it's going to show up once again here for NA. I will say, I'm not a huge fan of double support. I don't think it really caters towards what is necessary in the game right now unless you make up for it enough in your composition wave clear and macro sense. I would say I think Hanzo is great. He's one of the few that can do a little bit of everything enough to be committed into that kind of double support. It's mainly the supporting factor, the Dahaka and the Garrosh that really stand out for me and make me go, I don't know if they make up for enough of it on the map. And also, I talked about that Johanna pickup as the person who can stall up on mid. It's going to be a huge moment here for Gale Force in their laning situation. How they end up setting up the map is going to be important. And right now it seems like they're going to give heavy focus towards the top half rather than matching this tri-lane. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Normally you're like, how do we deal with the tri-lane pressure? We have too much kill potential. It's the mid lane that is the biggest problem because you can cycle your kill potential to the opposite side of the map, but it's who can hold up on mid. If you lose that trade over and over again, you're normally going to have a bad time. Garrosh versus Johanna, heavy favoring Johanna on the speed.
Looking at the Uther talent, he ended up going Silver Touch. Obviously I think it's a little bit easier to stack up because every time it reduces damage, that's where the questing part comes in. So fast auto attacks from Tracer, things like that, and Genji as well.
Life pro tip for all the Uthi players at home. If you die in the early game, it's really easy to stack that talent because your cooldowns are really long when you're alive, but when you're dead, they're very short. So you can just go spam it everywhere, and your passive works still when you're dead. So what I'm trying to say is feed, and you'll be a better Uther.
Wow. Dread with the pro strats out.
Hey, there's a time and a place to die in Uther. I've talked about that since I've made the transition over. It's just it's better to die early. Talking about dying early, BBJ throws out the weighted pustule, able to hold off. Wow, look at this collapse though. HeroesHearth having none of that. Brushstock even came in there with McIntyre. They end up getting one, but it's just the Tracer kill.
We end up getting extra toss range on Garrosh, generally because of the changes to the wave, but you could actually see a very precision throw there by Ishbu, making sure that he could get that stun on the way back, so helping to confirm that kill. Get the lead.
Sapper attempt on that interrupt from Fury. Not going to be able to get that from them. The control over this bottom lane is pretty real for HeroesHearth, and this is exactly what they want. Gale Force now has big impact with them. Nice route there from Akaface. Going to slow down Arthlon. Gets the mobility. Auto attack still coming out over the wall. Now Ishbu there, able to hit that knockup. That's something big impact I think should have been able to dodge. Arthlon, though, going to get reeled back in after that condemn. Genji now joining the squad.
Michael Udall has been very aggressive and justifiably so, especially when you can get that flank for a team like HeroesHearth that is being extremely aggressive.
Jet propulsion interrupted by the Ishbu's throw there. I did not actually know that interaction would happen to where he would have higher priority than the jet propulsion. To be honest, that doesn't make sense in my brain, but today I learned.
Got our altars spawning here as Dahaka is primed and positioned at the top left. You can see on the minimap, Genji there for the interrupt, while the rest of HeroesHearth down here, 4 members trying to zone out. And there's a nice toss by Ishbu to keep Fury, but Fury's able to get into position to shine that light.
Yeah, use that shield glare, stall it out once. Top left, Genji versus Dahaka is not going too well for the Genji. Mainly the fact that it's not like he has any kill potential. McIntyre's in a very healthy 80%. Rotation for Garrosh is going to happen towards top. Blaze is not getting enough macro pressure, so it's all about what can Gale Force make happen on bottom.
McIntyre was able to thwart off the assault, but Arthalon, super low here. Walks away. You know, Dredd, in his first game and only game on Uther, the double support, because we've seen a couple of Brightwing games, one Uther game for HeroesHearth.
He was the double support when we played.
Yeah, actually. But it hasn't, in this meta, it's been rough. On the one game that they had where he played Uther, it was 4 deaths, and not a lot of contribution, and a loss. A big L sitting next to it. So he's going to see if he can get a little bit of redemption this go-round.
I would say most of the time, this is, again, kind of pulling back from way, way back in his performance, so maybe not that fair of a thing, but I feel like most of the time, Arthalon was probably one of the more competent secondary supports. Invade attempt here.
Ooh, do we get the cooldown? Oh, he ended up going cleanse with the Hand of Protection.
Nice silence onto Tracer, unable to get the blink out of there with the lurking arm set down by BBJ. We're going to help ridding of this camp.
Almost wondered if Arthalon would go into the cooldown reduction on your Holy Light whenever you get stunned, because Janna has a mini stun. Her Condemn is a mini stun. At the end of it, you do get stunned, and if you can take advantage of that, you walk into it, you get that Q cooldown much, much quicker, but does opt for the cleanse.
There hasn't been too much pressure applied here from Gale Force on the top half of the map, nor have they done too well with the mid and buy. These staggered deaths by HeroesHearth are very well earned, but they're really, kind of crippling towards the game plan of the laning situation for Gale Force. They find themselves BBJ, big impact. They were so confident that it was like, yo, we found the kill target. He walked all the way around just to make sure he could make that happen. But because there was so much given towards that initial kill, it comes at the cost of Genji's life. 3-second time advantage for HeroesHearth Esports when it comes to these death timers, as we have 2 altars on top.
Looks like it might just be traded out. You can see Blaze on the minimap going towards his. McIntyre hasn't quite made his way over, but he has now. I don't think B-Kid can get there in time, nor do I think that's where he wants to be. Both teams close to 10 here. The gentleman's trade.
I mean, he could have jet propulsion, throw it out max range oil, maybe set it aflame. But that's one of those, do you want to risk anybody on that shrub? No. All right, well then we're going to play it slower. 4-shot advantage for HeroesHearth. The drag happens here. Genji's already started the sappers. I like the fact that we see Gale Force looking for split pressure. Bottom isn't the only place that they're focusing on. And again, that comes with the double support and the Hanzo composition. If you don't feel like you can match that, then you need to make sure you equally match that pressure elsewhere. I personally feel like they could have done a better job of kind of slowing the transitions down here, but every rotation they've made, they've gotten caught. So at this point in time, it's kind of one of those, how long do you keep doing that before you cut your losses? And I like the fact that we see them focus elsewhere. Even maybe on the Garrosh, which he's going to go, oh my. 49.
I mean, it doesn't get any higher, because 50 probably means you're dead, and that's impossible to have.
I mean, maybe in Heroes Heaven, he has 50 armor. Have you thought about that, J-How?
I will now. I kind of thought the Nexus was kind of where all the
no. I didn't check out our lore or any of that kind of hype going on there. But I don't.
I mean, if you died in Warcraft, you're in Heroes of the Storm.
It does feel that way.
Just so we all know, Johanna has not picked her heroic yet, Dredd. Oh no! Right as I said it, are we getting Falling Sword? Speaking of falling. Biggie.
It's going to be an arrow to the knee for that one.
That's so crippling.
Invade onto the Sapper. Not going to be any contention, as there is, 3-second difference between the altar into the Tracer spawn, no town portal. So 20 to 25-second advantage rotationally, unless Mac gets caught. Needs a root. Fury moves up. Shield Glare not used yet. Channel number 2 on BBJ. Here comes the Shield Glare.
They're looking for it. McIntyre, you can see the Iron Skin is going to be used. We got the pinch coming in, though, as B-Kid and Fury coming in both on Blaze and Michael Udall at the bottom. I mean, this is the ultimate trifecta if they opt to come in. Ishbu's going to hold point around that altar while the rest of his team is going to pick up a Sapper Camp.
2 members show on bottom while the Blaze displays through mid. HeroesHearth know that's a pretty easy pickup. That's going to put a huge amount of pressure on bottom. I think it might even convert that bell tower. It's going to be pretty close. Yeah. If that converts that bell tower and HeroesHearth end up picking this up, Gale Force is going to be just so upset with themselves that they did not end up fighting at any point during that. It's going to be just a drag back. Keep Blaze in check. Fury's getting caught in check.
Big time, but Biggie's going on the backside, gets the stiff arm. Divine Shield is going to be enough to save Ishbu, who might have gone down, but unable to do so. Akaface, there is absolutely no way he makes it out. Nice flip back. Ishbu dominating this front line.
Yeah, Ishbu just on the, anytime we see him on the Diablo or there on the Garrosh, it seems like he is unstoppable. Sappers have made it all the way through, or at least all the way over, distracting Big Impact for some while. Bottom bell tower is not converted before those shots come in, so only going to send 4. Gale Force now residing at 24 HP onto their core. 13 talents here for HeroesHearth. What can they make happen with this small window? No sappers up, so likely just going to be kind of Towers of Doom, ring around the rosy, keep control over this bottom lane.
See Dahaka going a little bit more of that hybrid build. This time not going into the extra essence at 1, still going that extra movement speed, but he is opting for the extra auto attack damage based on how much essence he has. We're going to see how much essence he has because Michael Udall and B-Kid have found him out in the top lane. Nice dodge of the jet propulsion there by McIntyre.
He's going to come back in. Does he land the drag? He's going to land it onto B-Kid. I believe Blessed Shield, condemn, pull back Arthalon. Not long for this World. Dragon Arrow comes in, but it's a half fraction too late there. He didn't even have Dahaka stay in range to give him value out of that level 1 I was talking about. Sad days.
It's like, hey man, I'm trying to heal you on this, but either way, HeroesHearth, they're going to make their way to this bottom camp, and because Hanzo went into that scatter arrow build, is able to rip through that camp pretty quickly. And they'll be able to threaten the turn in here because the wave clear, when you look at Tracer, she does have bullet spray at 13 now, which makes it a little bit better. But Tracer and Genji don't exactly scream, look, we're going to clear the minions, walk up, and take our bell tower back. That is incredibly difficult to do with this composition.
Nice route here from Aka. Ishbu unable to find a toss that he's looking for. Biggie did clear those sappers. Top bell tower converted. Dahaka's going to have to deal with that. Timed very, very well. Blaze and Genji making the rotation down, though. Bottom should be a free channel for HeroesHearth as long as it started immediately. Stukov, the man on that. BBJ is going to claim it for himself. Brush Doctor comes in here for Mac. The fight about mid. This is where it's going to happen here, J-Hal.
Arthalon under assault already. Going down. Has to use the D-Shield. Big Dragon Arrow, but it is short distance, so not big-time damage. Akaface, however, getting super low on the backside. Force the Ice Block, but he is in a lurking arm, Dread.
Yeah, Ishbu falling very low as well. It's going to be a 1-for-2 trade. We need to see Gale Force Esports stick together if they're going to turn this around. They're going to start sticking together in that bunker. BBJ trying to kite out, but too much damage there from Blaze and friends. 3-3 when it comes to the last team standing, or member standing. Nice drag there from McIntyre is going to allow for another kill here. And HeroesHearth now pulls ahead. 4 members down. It's going to be, I want to say, a 5th. Hammer of Justice. Give him the Frisbee. Just B steps instead. Respect.
Dread, he... I think he missed his Holy Shock.
He did.
He healed himself.
He healed himself.
He healed himself, Arthalon.
And then he B-stepped. And then he threw out the Frisbee, leaving the HP at 1%. He did it, though. Wait. He didn't go with the Holy Shock, right? No,
yeah,
he did.
Yeah,
he did go Holy Shock. All right, you're right.
Because I'm like, I think he just lit himself up.
Did he cyber agility? Oh, hold up. Because a lot of people don't know this, unless you're a support main and have done it yourself, because the heroes models are not all the same and they can overlap. If you're hovering over the Genji and you're using Holy Shock and you use the cyber agility, it becomes untargetable. You're just going to drop the heal on yourself no matter what. Even if you are hovering over your opponent, it doesn't matter. They're untargetable. Might have been what happened. Either way, it was led to some solid interactions, that's for sure.
Ishbu using Into the Fray to throw one of those sappers over that death line, getting another bit of core health down there. And Dread, these sapper camps still available. In the future, they do have a 30-second longer respawn time, but for now, HeroesHearth using that Hanzo factor, they're just going to take hold of the bottom. And the whole part about having that Dahaka global is that he can slowly retake that top bell tower, and if anything gets a little bit wild, he just comes down via the global.
Sappers make it to the wall of death. Condemn. Pull in Ishbu. No pulling the trigger yet. Root Silence landed onto Udall. Has to use the deflect. 12 seconds out. Dahaka will get that bell tower back in his favor, setting it 5-3 over this triple altar phase. Pretty big setback there, losing 2 potential shots if Gale Force consume 2 out of the 3 altars. Mike will get this for free. It's all about this top left. You see the collapse from HeroesHearth from below, from above.
But this is very reminiscent of Sky Temple. This is one of those rare scenarios where I think I'm actually okay. You just give it up. Like, right? You're only giving up 3 shots, a total of 6. But if you lose the fight, you give up so much battleground control.
Divine Shield to use, able to negate the Pulse Bomb. B-Kid stuck around that altar. Hanzo, look at all of HeroesHearth split. The fact that they aren't willing to recollect themselves to the left-hand side might be at their detriment. Normally, Hanzo wants to rely on that choke, but the fact that nobody else is willing to kind of poke and prod around it at a different angle might be a setback there. Scouts it out. Blaze still showing himself up above.
Flashlight goes out and gets 1 interrupt. There's the silence, and that will probably make it impassable. Ishbu gets the toss.
Genji, double stun, Dragon Arrow, everything used on Mikey Dolan. He keeps himself alive. The taunt too, they get the interrupt, they're going to go in.
They're going in, and they're looking for more of the stiff arms given by BBJ, but the rest of HeroesHearth, they're on the retreat. Big-time tongue lands, but Ishbu's going to eat the pulse bomb. That is a 1-for-1 trade. Akafe's looking for the channel, but he realizes he has to heal those members on Gale Force.
He throws out the heal. Look at that isolation onto Fury. He's able to make it out. Twilight Dream gets interrupted there by the drag. The thing that maybe could have saved the rest of the team and Akaface. Not today, says McIntyre. Now we see HeroesHearth. Yeah, and that is going to be 5 shots. That's game.
Hanzo is going to just shred this. And Gale Force has no idea. They do now, but it's too late. Dread, we are going to a game number 5.
HeroesHearth Esports here. After game 1 and 2, looking good for Gale Force. Game 3, you know, dominant for HeroesHearth, but they weren't able to keep it in their control. Not the case on Towers of Doom. Confidently able to take it here. Now we have a series. We have ourselves a game 5.
Something about Arthalon, man. Whether it's the B-steps, whether it's the Junkrat play, whether it's the missed Holy Shock, whether it's the fact that he's a tall dude just like me. I like it.
You know, he is a unique character, is I think the best way to put it. He very much brings the flavor here for HeroesHearth Esports, even with the kind of banter back and forth. And I mean, that Divine Shield, that initiation, everything about that last fight, I honestly was like, this is Gale Force's opportunity. But then kiting back into that choke, we didn't really shout it out, but he had got a great prep with the Hammer of Justice into Crowin. I was talking about, you know, SC hitting 80% of the arrows. I'm pretty sure it was 100% arrow against that wall. Just jammed it against their 50% to 0 onto the squishy. I think it was Tracer moving through. Clean play here for HeroesHearth. But it is not over yet. We still have a game number 5, trying to figure out what do you think on the map. We know, you know, Gale Force loses.
Was Tomb banned?
Likely going to go with first pick. It was Braxis Volskaya were the ban, so Tomb is an option.
Just because I love it. And these teams love to play it.
Okay.
They like to throw down on it, and I like to watch it.
I agree. I think that Tomb, I would like to see it to be Tomb as Spider Queen, but if
I wouldn't
not,
complain.
If not, you know, actually I want Tomb as well. I think that's the only map I want. Maybe Shrines. Maybe not, though. The Shrines can play a little slow. Either way, we are not going to keep you guys waiting. We got to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, Game 5 between HeroesHearth and Gale Force Esports.